Yo, what's going on everybody? Hope everybody is doing well. Today we are going to be talking about my Dante destruction build. This build allows Dante to do millions of damage with his final verse ability, which means of course we are using the tragedy story for final verse, which is obtained by doing 2 dark verses. And thanks to the setup I had, like I said, I was able to do millions of damage by just pressing a button. It's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and dive into the build. I recently made a video covering Dante's base abilities and the build that I have for base Dante, and I will leave that link in the description. But what separates this build from that one is the fact that I actually replaced his first ability Noctua with Rhino's helmet ability Roar. And the reason is because Roar gives you a faction damage bonus to your abilities and weapons. So let's go over exactly how the build works. You want to start by doing 2 dark verses in a row. Dark verse does slash damage to enemies in range and applies guaranteed status and stagger on affected enemies. And after 2 dark verses, you will get access to the tragedy story with his 4th ability final verse. But besides that, it's also really good to just start off with dark verse so you can apply that guaranteed slash on enemies. And then whenever it's time to destroy all the enemies around you, you can use his 4th ability final verse. And because the final verse ability is set to tragedy, we will be inflicting massive slash damage to all enemies in range, which is of course really good. But what makes this ability absolutely amazing is the fact that any enemies hit by tragedy that have an active damage over time proc will instantly receive full damage from that damage over time proc, and then that damage is then multiplied by a certain multiplier depending on your ability strength, which can result in amazing damage. Of course, the status effects are removed after you inflict the damage with tragedy, but when you pair that with a status weapon like the Kuva Nukor, that means absolutely nothing. All you have to do is inflict damage with dark verse, prime up the enemies with a status weapon like the Kuva Nukor, and then nuke all the enemies around you with the tragedy story from final verse. It's honestly really amazing, and you can make it even more amazing by using Page Flight. Page Flight is a story you can get with final verse. You get it by doing a dark verse and then a light verse, and whenever you use final verse after that, you summon 3 spectral paragrams that have a high threat level, meaning enemies are going to target them over you and your allies, and these paragrams deal slash damage to enemies, stagger enemies, and then on top of all of that, any enemy hit by the paragram is then more vulnerable to status chance, which is absolutely perfect for this build. You could use Page Flight so the paragrams spawn and make the enemies around you weaker to status chance. You could shoot them with the Kuva Nukor to apply status, and then you would use 2 dark verses so that you could activate tragedy with final verse, and then absolutely cook all the enemies around you with that final verse. Dante already cooks pretty much every single enemy that isn't Steel Path, but even in Steel Path, you could just absolutely cook with this loadout. And it's so fun to run around and slash enemies, instantly press a button, and they all die around you. It's hilarious, and I honestly really enjoy this build. So let's go ahead and go over the mod setup that I got with Dante. The Aura mod, I got Energy Siphon so that I can constantly get energy back. Got Fleeting Expertise for extra ability efficiency. Augur Secrets for extra ability strength. Primed Flow so I could have extra energy capacity. Umbral Intensify for extra ability strength, as well as Blind Rage for extra ability strength. Prime Continuity so I could get extra ability duration. I got Stretch for extra range, and then I got a Mars Hatred so I could get a little bit more ability strength. For my Arcanes, I got Arcane Energized so that I could have a higher chance of getting energy every time I pick up an energy orb, and then I got Molt Augmented so I could increase my ability strength per kill up to 250 times. And yeah, whenever you pair this with the Kuva Nukor so you can inflict that status on enemies, and then follow it up with 2 dark verses and then a tragedy for the final kill, especially with the Page Flight making the enemies weak to status, you start doing massive AoE slash damage. It's honestly really fun. And yeah guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think of Dante and this Dante destruction build. Before this video ends, real quick, just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel. And yeah guys, that's going to be it for me. With that being said, thanks for watching.